All right, we are live with Jeff Greenwald. Welcome in, everybody. As always, when you come on in, tell us where you're from, how your day is going. Look at that, already one from Montreal. They can do the double click here, Jeff. But welcome from Montreal. That's an honor. We already got Canada in the house. Jeff, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here with you, Pete, and everybody else.
Yeah. So we're going to get into the mental edge. Jeff's just written a book. But before we get into introductions, what we're going to do, Jeff, I just have to. Are you noticing the hat? Are you noticing the cup?
Oh, okay, Georgia.
I
Yeah,
I don't.
I
I know you're all the way out in California,
know. I know.
but did you get the news of what happened yesterday, Georgia versus Tennessee? Do you know what happened?
Well, you got to tell me.
You got to watch that. It is maybe the most clutch, amazing game in college history. Georgia versus Tennessee, huge rivalry. 4th and 6, we are down 38-30 with less than a couple minutes left to go. Our freshman, Gunnar Stockton, 4th and 6, throws a 40-yard dime for a touchdown. Then they hit the two-pointer. Then they went overtime. One of the greatest moments of my life.
Oh, wow. Wow. I saw many of them at Auburn. Georgia, Auburn were some good rivalries. That's quite a game. Yeah.
Yeah. We have Gordon Tanner on from Oxford, England. So we got people from all over the darn place here. It's like we're covering the entire world on this live stream. As you guys come on in, please say hello. So I just want to introduce Jeff Greenwald, the esteemed Jeff Greenwald, who has been a great friend of myself and Tennis Con and just the tennis world in general. And we're honored to have him on tonight. Jeff Greenwald is a licensed family therapist, elite mental coach, and best-selling author of The Best Tennis of Your Life, which everybody's interested in that. And now his new book, The Mental Edge for Young Athletes, a world champion's mental toughness guide for athletes, which Jeff is a world champion, by the way, probably one of the best tennis players in the world over 50. Parents and coaches in the digital age. He is a 2-time ITF world champion, ranked number 1 in the world in men's 35, and the winner of 14 national titles. Jeff has helped thousands of athletes in all sports, including pro and college players for the last 27 years. He was inducted to the North Carolina. I got North Carolina on the brain because of SEC football. Northern California, where I used to live, Hall of Fame for his contribution to the game and his success in tennis. So, Jeff, again, honor you coming on. And I've always been a big fan of yours. And I know that a lot of you guys have heard this, but maybe some of you haven't. I remember I just listened in on one of your USPTA talks one time, Jeff, and you gave the greatest tip on how to stay loose when you're feeling tight. And that was to physically hold the racket tight for about 10 seconds, and then you'll relax. And at the time, I was actually playing still USTA 5.0 tennis myself. So I would use that myself and then tell my students to use it. I've used that tip countless times, but I always do give you credit.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, hey, whatever works, right? And yeah, it's nice to get that contrast for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, guys, try that. If you're feeling very tight, you can tend to stay relaxed, but sometimes it's hard to stay relaxed. But if you physically do something very tight for about 10 seconds, it's kind of genius. Then your whole body feels relaxed. Most points are 4 shots or less. So sometimes all you need to do is hit one good ball and you're like, oh yeah, I feel good now. I'm ready to go. So speaking of ready to go, we have Ross from New Jersey, and Ross is doing hard work on his serve. It looks way better. So we appreciate. Now we got Colorado in the house. This is awesome. Thank you guys so much for spending your Sunday with us. So let's get into, first of all, what inspired you to write the book?
What inspired me? Having spent so many years with parents, families, young athletes, a lot of junior tennis too, just wanting to pass on. I've been in it so long, just pass on some of the my wisdom, and hopefully can help the families and athletes, players enjoy the journey, enjoy the ride, because sports offers so much. It can be one of the greatest memories of our lives, but there's a lot of pressure, a lot of expectations, college money now being offered to kids and so forth. So the specialization early in sports and more injuries. It's just the trend is not going great in terms of how we're sort of navigating sports with the young. So yeah, I just wanted to really try to help families navigate a lot better. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
I just want to point this out. One of our favorite coaches, John Craig, I mean, that's awesome. This
Yeah.
is a great coach. Watching a great coaching session. Thank you for joining us,
Love
John.
working with John.
He
Yeah.
is awesome.
Yeah.
So, got a question for you. What is something people, kids know would help them, but they don't do? Which is kind of crazy, right? When we're in the heat of competition, there's just like we just kind of freeze up. So what are some things that they know would help them, but they don't do when they feel tight or nervous in a competition?
So, well, the first thing is they are anxious that they're tight, right? So that their first reaction, that first instinctive reaction, gets them into trouble. And then if they give themselves a little bit of permission to miss, as I call it, and they hit through the ball, and it's not a bad shot, maybe a little bit looser than the last time, but they miss, then there's this pullback. And so it's the commitment to the shot, particularly after you miss in tennis. After you miss it, that's the opportunity, that's the challenge, of course, right? But it's the commitment to your shots, the desire to follow through. And if you do that, if you hold to that metric, it's a different metric system, really. And if you hit through the ball, that's a win. That's a mini win, even if you missed a little bit. So you have to subscribe to this philosophy and really stick to it. And kids, have a hard time. They, of course, the natural human tendency is to revert back to what's comfortable, I
Hmm.
guess. Comfortable, and
Hmm.
it doesn't work very well, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, kids and big kids, right? I mean, we've all
Sure. I mean, it's
felt that
prevalent.
tightness. Yeah. I mean, well, actually, one of the lessons I was giving today, um, this guy said, I just am amazed at how Alcaraz and Sinner just keep committing to the shot. Like they just keep going for the shot. And he said exactly what he said. He's like, I'll go for a shot and then it doesn't work. And I'll say, okay, maybe I'll try that like in 2 weeks, you
Right.
know?
Right.
So, how do you balance that, like regulate, like, okay, what is a good shot you can go for in a match versus, sometimes, people who do kind of play, go for it, uh, uh, they don't necessarily play the smart shots. It's like you have two types of nervousness, right? Don't you? Where people are like too conservative, and other people are just like maybe a little too like reckless, or they're not thinking clearly, but maybe they're telling themselves, "Well, I'm hitting the ball." Like, how do you coach people to go for it, but then also like have a clear head and hitting the right shots at the right time? Like that's a crazy balance, isn't it?
Well, it's a balance that we all need to strike at every level of the game. Even the pros are trying to find the right balance. It's all relative, and we call it controlled aggression, right? Controlled aggression, and you can still hit through the ball, and you be willing to be loose and hit through as best you can, and go to big targets. Doesn't need to be reckless, right? But we often interpret it that way and react in that all or nothing way, and it doesn't need to be that. It's really incremental too, by the way. It's not like, if you're feeling tight and nervous, you want to just give yourself that permission to hit through the ball more. And if you miss, you also need your cues, specific cues, like, stay through. I love down and through. Down and through really makes such a difference, so you don't peak, pull up on the ball, and all these things. So if you have your cues, you are committed, and you do recognize that this path feels better, and it will ultimately work a lot better, and usually even in the short term. But it's the hesitancy, the we're not as willing as we say we are to do this, right? Because we're hedging. And here the rub is that we actually win. So we win some of these points. We play safe. We hold back a little bit, and the opponent gets a ball that's slower and they miss, and then we're kind of more likely to do that. So the commitment and conviction, if you will, to hit through the ball, big targets, fine. But again, I just think we have to think in terms of controlled aggression
Hmm.
and these incremental wins. It's not doesn't just happen right away, and it takes a little
Yeah.
bit of practice too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. That's a good point. We have world trip. I'd like to take a world trip. And it's Peter from Australia. Love the interview. Thank you so much. Australia. I mean,
Thank
it's
you.
amazing. It's amazing what's going on here. All right. So, what is the biggest mental error that players make when they get nervous and they feel pressure? What's the biggest error that they make?
So the instinctive reaction, as I mentioned earlier, is this is bad. Oh no.
Hmm.
It's just because you feel that spike of adrenaline, right? Maybe it's the butterflies, and then of course we can get tight, and so there's different feelings we have. Some is nervousness that then sort of morphs into tightness, and then now we have the scoreboard, and all those things together. It's sort of we're in a state of fight, flight, and freeze, and more of a freeze mode even. And so again, it's like what I call in my book, creating a new relationship with your nerves. In my first book, I call it, finding pleasure in pressure. Same
Hmm.
concept, which is,
Hmm.
like let's embrace this feeling. Let's use this energy. Let's not let it hold us back and keep us stuck and have the feet not move and freeze to just get the ball back in the court. This is the human tendency, right? But we have to counteract that. We have to gradually stay true to ourselves, play, as I say, on our own terms, and hit through the ball, committed, down and through, do it again. And again, have your cues. But yeah, the biggest error is, feeling the little bit of surge of adrenaline, and it might be a lot sometimes. But
Hmm.
that doesn't mean you're gonna feel that the whole match. It doesn't mean you're gonna lose. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. Or so I think this embracing nerves, accepting it, so actually expecting it. I talk about expecting the nerves, so you
Mm.
then accept it and then channel it. And when you start to channel it, think of it as like energy in a pipe. If you kind of stop it, you've got this energy locked in and it just stays stuck. But if you think of it as letting it go, with some margin, fine. Rod Laver used to say that when he got tight, he just hit the crap out of the ball, hit the ball
Yeah.
there. But there is something about that, because you're sending a message to your brain that, hey, we're not in trouble here. This is normal. This is fine, and I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Whether you tell me not, subconsciously tell me to hold back. This is what I'm doing. So you act your way there. Sometimes we have to act our way into how we want to feel.
Hmm. Absolutely. Um, we know that playing safe. I can't tell you how many times, and I want people to understand. I was a good player. Lots of times I kind of make fun of. I mean, I was a good player, Division I college tennis player. State champion, top 100 in the nation. But I still remember, so many times telling myself before a match, like, okay, you're going to hit the ball today. You're going to hit the ball today. You're going
Mhm.
to, and you're going to play a certain way. And then all of a sudden, you find very quickly in the match that you're doing the same stuff you promised you wouldn't do. And it's a very dissatisfying feeling. Why do we do that? Even the whole ride to a match, we can say we're going to do one thing. And then all of a sudden, and then you just realize, like, oh my God, I'm doing exactly what I promised myself I wouldn't do today.
Yeah, that can get very prescribed and forced, right? Which is different than visualizing it, some shots, and kind of visualizing yourself being loose and going forward, playing confidently. Um, but it's normal that we're going to have hiccups and we're not going to play as well, and we're going to feel different than we do in practice. And I think sometimes there's subconscious idea that it's supposed to feel, a good day is supposed to feel like practice, and it's never going to feel like practice, and that's a good
Hmm.
thing. We have the tension of winning and losing, and so I just think there's this desire to feel this kind of practice level state. Hitting the ball, no, there's nothing really on the line, and it's just an illusion. And the best athletes in the world, and just simply, they know it's coming, they embrace it, it's part of their juice, and they have the rituals to manage it. But I think the more you expect it, accept it, as I said, and then adjust. In moments when you notice you played it safe and backed off, you smile, and you're like, okay, there you go. You tell yourself, there you go again. If you start thinking negatively, and
Hmm.
and you can, the confidence that comes from adjusting, that you can, you know, play a little more aggressively, or you can maybe, in some cases, just work the point a little bit more, be a little more patient, and set your intentions like that. So it's never going to be perfect, but I think if we're a little easier on ourselves and notice it along the way, we can just make these little micro adjustments, and that brings confidence in and of itself.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
even
Uh,
if
uh,
it's yeah.
as you were talking, and we just thought about nerves and being overwhelmed, and it being okay, and it being normal, I just thought, I don't know how much you followed the Wimbledon on the WTA tour and then the US Open, but I mean, how Anna Masova went out and couldn't win a game in the Wimbledon final, and the resilience to come back less than a couple months later and beat Iga at the US Open and go to the finals. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
how do you do that? Did you know? Are you
Oh
aware
yeah,
of that? Yeah. So
of
what do
course.
you first of all think happened in the final, and what, like, if you, let's just say you were putting the words, like, how would you have coached her from you know Wimbledon, the U.S. Open, and maybe there was somebody in her corner doing that, but like, what do you tell somebody after they go out and go 0-0, get humiliated, and they're just like, and obviously that's just, I mean, that's just like being naked in front of the world, right? When your tennis game, where it's the biggest event in the world, and you don't get a game. Like, how do you teach somebody to recover from that?
Well, you know what they say about playing Rafa. The worst time to play Rafa is after you beat him. After you beat Rafa, is you don't want to be playing him the next time, because you know when you lose, when you're a motivated, driven athlete, and you lose badly like she did, 0-0, to come back from the ashes. I mean, that's determination, and you can't do much. I mean, it was, look, a couple weeks, she's tired. There are factors there that we don't fully know, right? How exhausted she was, and then Iga just on fire. But to you really have this opportunity to come back and prove yourself again, and I think there can be real motivation in that, real
Hmm.
inspiration to and she knows she's a good player. She knows that was, it ran away from her, but I think she dug back in. She had a good team. They worked hard on specific things, but it was, I think, a real opportunity to dig deep and be inspired to get better, and to go in with really, you're not going to do a lot worse than that against anybody out there. So now she's playing. She's got a full deck of cards. It's like, to come back. I just think she had a great attitude. And by the way, she did go into Wimbledon with the new attitude of just wanting to enjoy it, back to the
Hmm.
process, which is so helpful to all of these players, because that's really what keeps you, sane out there. You got to start enjoying the process, win or lose, and have that process in place. And I think she just went back to that and got inspired to, show that she could do better than that.
Yeah. So I got a question for you. This book that you wrote is about helping young athletes and pressure and all that. Um, you're in the trenches every day. You're helping all types of athletes in all kinds of different sports. Is the pressure just the same old pressure, or is it different than when we were growing up, with social media, even at the high school level? Is there different things going on that you hear that we just didn't experience? Because lots of people like, I need a mental break. I need, like anxiety, like all these words. We felt them all, but we didn't maybe verbalize them to the world, especially like star athletes the way they do now. Is it more intense now? Or are they just verbalizing what we felt the whole time different? Are they more just like speaking up for themselves? What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's been a sea change in the depth level of expectations, and success and failure is more apparent and more obvious, and in kids' faces earlier than ever, with college and the money and so forth, and keeping up with the Joneses and hiring different pros and people. And so, no question that the external pressure has grown. And social media is a huge part of that, obviously. And so, young athletes at 11, 12, well, even 10, are seeing and hearing about potential and college. And it's become a it's become more than just a sport and a thing you do. Junior tennis, your draw was at the club on an easel. You'd go look at and you'd see who you play, and you wanted to win. You had your own butterflies, and you knew ranking was on the line. But with UTR now and social media and the money with coaching and all the information we have, there's just so much more um, to wade through and be distracted by, and we are just more distracted. So focus becomes a commodity. It's much harder for athletes at all levels, all ages, to go out for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and focus deeply and not get hijacked by thoughts and by parents on the side gesturing to them, um, coaches who are there and very quite outcome oriented, and all of that. So yeah, the pressure has increased significantly, and it's also deepened, given what's on the table too with college and so forth. So yeah, that's why I wrote the book, to try to. We're not going to get away from, hey, winning and losing is, oh, it's just fun. It's not. Winning matters. Winning helps and gives you opportunities, and it's exciting. And we also need to create a mindset of mastery now. We need a
Mhm.
mindset of setting intentions, a new metric system, as I said, so you can go out and hit through the ball and play the game you want to play more and more, that leads toward better outcomes and is better developmentally. And so,
Mhm.
and parents and coaches need to support this, but we do need to help kids, because the extreme fear of failure is definitely much bigger now.
Yeah, yeah. So it says here, build a mastery mindset, we just talked about. And you deal with a lot of kids and have a lot of like meetings with them and help them through this. What is a typical session like with you? Is it you talking to the kid and saying what they need to develop? Is it letting them talk to you? Is it leading them through breathing exercises, visualization? Like, if somebody sat down for an hour with you, what are you doing exactly? Or is it kind of everything? And is there a certain like system, like five
Awesome.
minutes of this, 10 minutes of that? What is it like?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing it a long time, so you certainly have a groove and a philosophy and approach, and it's multifaceted. But we start out with a meditation to make sure we're grounded and present. So by doing that, we're modeling the way they want to be on the court as well. And so we do 3-4 minutes of guided meditation, and sometimes I start slipping in some concepts and intentions from our sessions, because I know what we've worked on. So I'm sort of feeding in some of these ideas, and again, getting them present for our session, so they're more engaged and experience that. And then we'll debrief the week, or often a tournament. How did it go? What worked? How did you do with those tools and the mindset? And tell me about the nerves. How did you react to the nerves? How were your emotions? So we're looking for progress. I'm always looking for, wins, things they did that were we're better, because it's never perfect, but incrementally they start to develop confidence, and I'm praising them for that progress and dedication. And then we go through whether it's in self-talk they have, lack of belief, if it's they're not really yet utilizing the breathing exactly right or at the right times, and they're not really committing the way that, like we're talking about, they're not committing yet to the degree that they want to. We keep deepening that and trying to make that more of an intention. So they're sometimes putting stuff on the wall, intentions on the wall, and they're seeing mastery being the most important to them, creating this new metric system gradually, and really using the breathing techniques off the court as well, just in life, using it in class, using it on the go, getting breathing, deep diaphragmatic breathing. So it's natural. It's not something to do when you're nervous only, when you're in trouble, but they're getting better and having it be more natural. We do some visualizations, some writing, reflective exercises, and connecting it to their experience. And I have assessments that I use as well. So I'm always using, sort of referencing how they responded to certain situations, in terms of keeping their eyes on the court, in terms of belief that they can win even when they're down. How are they doing closing out matches? And we look at some of those things. If they say I almost always lose leads, for example, we're in there and really, like, stitching that up to give them tools of, expecting your mind will go to the future. What if I'm almost there, going to the finish line, and then
Mm-hmm.
bringing them back to the present and practicing that, and then going into training and using the tools and putting them in situations that are a little bit more pressure based on the score. And so they have to use these tools. I even have coaches stand behind the players saying the things they say to themselves in matches, like, you're going to miss, don't double fault, this would be horrible, what will people think if you lose? I'll have them say the negative thoughts to the player while they're serving, to sort of, quote, desensitize them. So they're hearing their own negative thoughts while serving, and they start to get bored with that stuff, and it starts to lose its hold on them. So I do all kinds of things to kind of shake it up in there. So yeah, just a few ideas.
I love that last one, especially. Now, as you're talking, and we all know how important the mental game is, and we can see that if we just look at the greats, Serena Williams, Roger Federer, Nadal, and now we got Sinner and Alcaraz, and especially when you guys go to a tournament and you watch all the pros hit, that's where it kind of comes very apparent. Like, wow, everybody looks like there's not much separation there when you watch those people rally and stuff. It's like everybody's amazing. And Djokovic, I think, really has been the best example of somebody who, had some mental and physical struggles, and then he just went so deep into this stuff, and it made all the difference in the world. Where when we're learning how we all want instant results. Everybody wants to fix their serve in a week, but then realistically, we know it's going to take more than a week to probably get rid of whatever is wrong with your serve. You got to put some work in it. And so I think most people realistically go, okay, if this took 3 to 6 months to work a new stroke out, I get that. On average, is there an average when it comes to working on the mind? How long have you noticed it takes when you start working with somebody to all of a sudden you're like, the switch is now flipped. They now believe, they're now achieving the stuff that they didn't do before. They've bought into the process. Like, how long of training on average does it take somebody to start really kind of building that mental toughness?
Yeah, I notice a notable shift at about 3 months. So that's at 12 sessions, and that is some texting between. So we have a connection as well, and they can open to text me and so forth. So, and I do this with adults as well, as well as kids. But And then, I do happen to have people, they stay with me for a while. They appreciate they enjoy the work and conversations. They find that it helps them not only in tennis quite often, but also in their life and even work. Um, I've worked with many, many executives who happen to just be obsessed with tennis or golf, and they find it actually reciprocal, helpful in both. And so, but 3 months is you definitely start to see progress, and it becomes more natural, becomes more ingrained, integrated into their game. And then, go 6 months and it's just becoming more natural. It's just more seamless, and they know when they go off the track. They know when they're going in their head and thinking ahead, or certainly beating themselves up. The emotional reactions reduce significantly, and because they have now what I say buttons on the remote control, right? I say, look, we put the buttons on together in our sessions, and then they're the ones who have to press them in the match, right? So they're really they definitely have remote control now. It's and they're using it, and uh, it's a lot of progress happens. Yeah, 3 to 6 months for sure.
That's really cool. And I think you're right. The tennis is such a great game for life. It teaches you so much. And when you can really have a clear head and you realize, wow, I'm really learning a lot about myself on the court, and this stuff, can definitely help you, especially if you know how to channel it the right way.
Yeah.
Um, if players could only get one or two skills, tools, what would they be? If you could just teach players one or two tools, what would that be?
Yeah. So the one that seems to have taken hold quite a lot with players, which I'm sure by now, is this interesting shift of attention into your body, mindfulness. Like, but I chose the feet, so feeling your feet on the ground when you walk between points, for example, or on the way onto the court. But just being present like that. Feet are the furthest thing from your head, for one, and when you have a sensation, I think we've talked about before, Pete, but you can't be thinking at the same time. Your feelings, you could even be feeling your grip, and if you're really truly feeling and not thinking about feeling, but you're actually feeling your grip, you can't be thinking and in the thinking mind. So that's a really great tool, centering your mind, your attention before receiving, right? Like you just clear it all out and now you're just focused on the ball. You're able to shift that attention into your body. There's no thoughts. You're comfortable with that, and so that being present is huge. And I guess that at this point, it would be the metric and commitment to hitting through your shots no matter what, right? And that's a commitment that happens in different ways and for different time periods for people. But when you're committed to it, and you also understand being loose, so I guess the two would be, being able to hit the reset, dropping into your feet sensation, and feeling that looser feeling in matches. So it's a little bit more of elasticity, as we've discussed as well over time. That you're a little bit looser in your shots. You're not gripping and tightening on contact, and that we bake that in practice. So we use that dial, right? 4, 3, 4, 5 is pretty loose, and once we get into 6, 7, 8, we're getting into that holding, forcing, tightening, backing off, and we can just make incremental progress of releasing the ball, releasing that energy while staying through it. That's a pretty good combo.
Mm. Guys, this is awesome stuff, by the way, Jeff. As you're listening, okay, because we're probably going to be on for maybe another 10 minutes or so. I got some more questions, but as you're listening and you want to kind of maybe have a question for your own game, or you do have a family member, whether that's son, daughter, grandson, granddaughter, nephew, niece, whatever it is, and you want to help them and you want to ask Jeff a question, put that in the chat now. Okay, it's a great time to do that. So as we get towards the end, we can ask some questions. But I want to ask a question on kind of how, if there's mostly, I'm sure, adults on tonight, how would they use your book? Do they give the book to the athlete and say, you got to read this? Do they almost kind of like read something from you and not even say it came from you, just kind of like all of a sudden like mention it as a situation comes up to kind of guide them through it. You know what I mean? Like what would be the most effective way? Because as we know, sometimes kids are hard to connect with. How was your day? Okay. Like, so how would an adult use your book most effectively to get through to kids?
So yeah, and I'm aware, and actually address this in the book. I really worked hard to make it relatable, so the kid. And I talk about TikTok and Instagram and the pull there, and the process of actually writing this book. Which I was like, well, should I even write this? Do kids read anymore? And but I explained that to them. It wouldn't be right and fair because okay, the outcome I want is for kids and parents, families to read this, but I had something important to share, and I committed to it finally. But I kind of talk about really these moments and the nuance of the moment and really relate to them. So I think once they do open it, they're gonna. I think the likelihood of getting sort of intrigued by it is as high as it could be. I've seen what the other books out there for kids are, and they're pretty vanilla and checklisty and tell you what to do, and so this that kind of pulls them in. Now, if I were, remember this has a parent section in the back, so there's parents can read their part. They can also know what the kids are learning, and to let them know that this is a book for all of us.
Hmm.
I want to do this better. I want to understand how to create the best environment, best experience for you, for all of us. And I don't think we always do that. And I'm going to read a book, and would love for you to read your part as well. And because it can open up communication, and it really talks specifically about these moments, kids not eating breakfast because they're too anxious and they're moping around, they're not speaking, or they're saying, I'm going to quit, I just hate this. And which is all emotional, and just how to normalize the nerves and expect them to come, and how to handle those moments, deal with after they lose, and what to say, what not to say, and that infamous car ride home, and just to how to manage these pressure cooker moments. And so it's kind of a family book, and that's what I say on the back too. This is for the whole family. So
Hmm.
I think it's if you approach it like that, and have conversations about it after, I think that opens up the channels, at dinner, and what do you think of that chapter, and and also maybe reminding the kids to use some of the tools, right? Don't forget about that breathing tool, or the visualization tool, or the reframing something. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's really the way. And if parents are reading it, I think that, it's not just here, you should read this because you need to be better. It's like, I'm going to read my part too, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I think that's great, and I think another thing too, we tend to be very cynical as a society always, and some of the common things that people say is like, oh, kids all have ADD, kids can't pay attention past 2 seconds, but I think as a society, for better or worse, lots of times worse, but we tend to get more and more extreme. So you do have a lot of kids who don't pay attention, aren't serious or whatever. But I think more than ever, you also have kids that are like locked into what they do. They take everything they do deadly serious. They leave no stone unturned, and they realize, like, if you look at the level of tennis, I mean, these are young kids, really. I mean, Yannick Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz are young kids, pretty much,
Oh, yeah.
and to get as good as they did, I mean, they had to be pretty locked in. They had to be pretty focused. You probably gave them anything to do. They probably said, "Okay, I'll do it."
Right.
So, and if you look across the board at like Instagram, TikTok, and all these things, you're seeing kids do just unbelievable things physically,
Mm.
everything, artistically,
Yeah.
and these kids get that through a lot of hard work, through a lot of research, a lot of self study. So, I think sometimes as adults, we kind of don't give the kids enough credit for what they're willing to do and pay attention to. Have you found that through working with kids today?
I actually have recently, and you make a really good point. There is this perfectionism that's pretty rampant as well, right? Many kids who want to try to meet the expectations and believe they can, and they're maybe really smart and pretty athletic, and they love tennis and they want to be better, and they see what's possible on social media. So they are working hard, and they're working hard in school, and they are overwhelmed as well, right? But my clients have definitely been they absorb what I talk about. They understand it. They are reading the chapters that I assign them. They come back with, have them answer questions and reflect. I have a workbook that I give them as well. So I'm definitely seeing engagement and a desire to try to manage these difficult moments better. They know they need help. In fact, I think many kids are even asking for help, getting mental coaches and so forth. So it's changed, and that's good. Asking, like chapter 2, I say, be curious and seek feedback. That's one of the chapters, is encouraging kids to reflect and ask questions and not be scared of getting feedback. That it's good, and that's how we get better. And Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan and all these other, Tiger Woods, you name it, Tom Brady, they all, Federer included, they want to be better, and you need to be curious to get better.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. This is great. We have a couple of really good. I really like this question. If you can answer this question, Jeff, I mean, it'll make a lot of tennis players very happy. So I think this is really good because it is such a tough thing to do. You're playing senior doubles. How do I help my partner who is having a bad match? That is a brilliant question because it's a tough one to deal with.
Yeah, it is, to watch that brush fire turn into a forest fire, right? Yeah. And actually, a young player asked me about that the other day. This girl was on the court, high school player, and she was just standing there frozen. And my client recognized it, who is dealing with her nerves, and went over and said, "It's okay, just smile, just smile." And that helped her, helped the girl. Um, and smiling is a really incredible technique, and because it releases chemicals, right, and serotonin, and so, but to try to have fun with the partner and to lighten them up a little bit, and they're so in their head, um, that anything you can do to kind of snap them out of that. And if they know about intentions, that's great. If they know about smile when you're nervous, that's good. So in the moment, it's really, sharing something. Can I share something with you? And just let's how about we just smile when we miss, and certainly high five each other, especially when you miss. You'll see the best athletes, doubles players, will have some physical contact after they make a mistake, because it's saying to your partner, not just when they make a good shot, but even when they don't, or double fault, you go and you give them a little high five kind of thing, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
say, all good, here we go. You just
Yeah.
kind of break it up and let them know ultimately that you're not harboring resentment and irritated at them for not playing great, because that's going to just compound for them. But if they know you're like still okay, and managing it, it'll help them not go into the catastrophic place of,
Hmm.
"Oh, my friend will never want to play with me," you
Mm-hmm.
know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if if you might not know, but as you're saying that, and this question coming through, which is a great question. Um, I think it is one of the biggest weaknesses in club adult tennis is the ability to connect with your player, especially when they're having a bad day. And lots of people, when they're having a bad day, can tend to shut down. They don't really feel like being social because they're pissed, they're annoyed, they're embarrassed, they're whatever. And
Yeah.
if you watch, and a lot of the cop outs will be like, well, we're not like great friends. Like, I got hooked up with them. This is like the first time or second time I'm playing with them. I don't really feel like it's my place to then try and make this connection. But especially watching the mixed doubles at the US Open this year, a lot of people like Iga Swiatek, and so many of of these pros who you don't think of as doubles players and probably don't play a lot of doubles. It's like they all come from the same training ground. They walk. If you watch a doubles walk, it's a faster rhythm. It's a more energized pace. They connect. They give little fives.
Yeah,
They all seem to know exactly what to do.
right.
And I am amazed, especially when I see singles players thrown into a doubles environment. It's always the same. They always have great communication and connecting skills. Is there like a training center that they go to, like before they go on the tour or something? Like, how do all the pros know to act the same, which is very positive? Yet, if you look at club doubles, it's the opposite. It's like two singles players, like strangers out there, and it almost looks like divorce court sometimes.
Funny, funny. Yeah, I think instinctively they're happy. Singles players who play doubles are just ecstatic to be playing doubles because it's so fun compared to being alone on the court all the time. So I think there is an aspect of that they have energy that and they just know, and it's fun to connect like that, and it's that they know that that's how you play better by creating this chemistry, by making physical contact, by having that physical energy and demonstrating that. It's sort of like act how you want to feel. So, and the points are they go fast. So you have to keep your energy up, and so that's sort of intuitive. And I think a lot of league or club players don't recognize the importance of it. They don't, it's just not natural to go up and high five every time your partner misses. That's not the It just doesn't occur to like they feel bad, and there's too much emotion that happens out there. I mean that gets in the way of playing good doubles, where the emotions are worried what their partner's going to think if they miss the poach, or they go for it and they miss, and so I think that if we could lose uh, that sort of personalizing it, um, and some of that really negative thinking about it, worry, shame. There's a lot of emotion that comes up for players who haven't played the game forever, but just the more physical contact, here we go, no worries, that's what will help each of you play better. Here we go, a little smile, a little joke every now and then, or maybe encouraging them to keep going for it, keep hitting through. You just little things, drop and roll, hit through
Hmm.
it, and let's have some fun now. You're down 5-1, 5-2. Like, you
Hmm.
ready to go? You ready for our
Hmm.
comeback? And you just kind of throw that in, and that makes a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Warren's got a good question. Winning a match easily, how do you avoid that letdown after getting a serve broken for the first time? It's like that thing, like you get punched in the mouth for the first time in a match. How do you respond there?
Well, there's nothing like pain to change, to help us change and to get our attention. I mean, if you get punched in the mouth, you get broken like that, it can only be one thing: an opportunity to focus, dig in, and improve, right? And see, and that's the challenge always. We want to win, but it's always the challenge of, all right, now what are you gonna do with this? You're down, you're up, and now you're down 4-3 in the third set. The whole thing depends on your match, and you feeling nerves, and you just missed a forehand long. Can you go for it again? That's courage. It takes courage.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that all those kinds of situations are just circumstances to get better and challenge yourself.
Mm-hmm. All right. So here's a good question. Uh, hey Pete, long time no talk. Jeff, what are your thoughts on being process focused on your technique, your body, versus focus on tactics, planning your plan and playing your plan? That's a great question. We got some like very good questions here.
Yeah. So, well, the first thing is a little bit about your brain and your focusing style. Some people tend to focus more internally. Some people are a little bit more tactically focused and sort of trying to figure that out. Either way, you really want your attention outside of yourself most of the time, either on the ball, on the target, anything you can find. especially when you're about to return, about to serve. So the less you are internal and in your head, of course, the better. So it's called an external focus. You do want that internal reset body, as you mentioned, that sort of breath, center breath, go into the feet, kind of, clear your head, be present, which is really about being in your body. And so once you reset, now you're available to, okay, maybe for a moment you choose you're going to go out wide with your serve or you're going to poach. So you have your internal tactic decision, but this needs to happen very quickly. I'm talking about, a couple seconds each. And then you're just external, for the remainder of the time. We have 25 seconds, but typically doubles players are probably, you're talking about 15-ish seconds between points. You need to toggle from, okay, reset, pick any sort of intention you need to adjust. Maybe it's like you're not poaching at all. So you're like, okay, let's double down on poaching and commit to it. Or you're backing off of the return. So you're visualizing that and that you're going to follow through the next time. So that's internal. And then once you do that, you're back to just ball, ball, ball. And, hopefully you stick to your intentions as best you can. So yeah, it's a little bit of a shifting of focus, but I'm going to say 80% plus is always out of your head, on the court, on the ball, on your target. And then the rest is just adjusting a technique or tactic when necessary.
That's great stuff. Guys, I'm going to put the link to the book. If you're listening to this and go, man, this sounds really good, and I want to read it for myself, for kids, grandkids, whatever, I'm putting the link in the chat that you guys can pick that up. So there's a good question here that I want to ask you, and that is, you talk about stumbling onto a different dimension when you were playing and coaching in Germany. What does that mean? Can you talk about what happened?
Yeah, sure. I mean, in full transparency, I played the Pro Tour for a couple of years, and I got ranked, ATP ranking in singles and doubles. Never made it big. And then I went on to Germany. I'm coaching there, and I'm playing a match. A guy's serving 100, probably 125, huge lefty serve, and everybody's watching. The club's watching. I'm the coach of the club, and there's nothing I can do at that point. I realized, like, no amount of thinking and hedging here. I just had dropped out of my head, and I dropped into my body just to be present, because the ball's coming so fast. I'm like, the only chance I have is to react. And so I dropped in and ripped some 125-mile serves, just boom, winners, just because I responded. I wasn't caught up in hedging and backing off and controlling the ball. I just let go. It was a letting go thing. And it was a totally different dimension of focus. And so it was the first time, having played juniors in college and professionally, like, I really recognized the power of our focus. And when we just let go of all this stuff and really just show up and commit to the shot, whatever happens. And from that moment, my game just went like this. I was able to keep doing that kind of thing. And then I went back to school. Moved back to the States to study this, this sort of sports psychology and this different mind-body states, and how do we get there, and what's in our way. And here we are 27 years later, and I played opens and all the ITF stuff, and using all the tools that I'd been learning, I was able to apply to myself, which was fascinating. And that's really what, it was just super interesting. And then helping people do this early as they can.
Maybe this will be a good question to end on, because I know a lot of people probably really want to know this too. You keep playing, you keep winning, you're playing lots of times people much younger than you. Some people still, on the tour, just got off the tour. We talked about a big match you had, you were going to have. I think you got hurt a couple of years ago. What was Tennis Sandgren? I think you didn't end, right? So, I mean, you're playing at that,
He actually defaulted.
Yeah, yeah, you're playing at that level. How are you defeating father time? Are you making adjustments physically? Or are you in this state of mind like, age is just a number. My body feels just as good. They're like, are you tricking your mind and your body going, I'm actually getting better. I'm just as fast as I was when I was like, how are you making these adjustments as you age? I mean, even Novak Djokovic, one of the most mentally tough guys ever, who a couple of years ago, when the younger guys are getting better, I remember in an interview, I was one of my favorite lines, and he's talking about the young guys coming up, and he's like, it ain't happening. Like I'm not ready to go. And now he's kind of talking like, I kind of feel like I'm barely holding on these days. So how do you keep inspiring yourself, pushing yourself? What is your mindset? And are you making any adjustments as you get older? Or are you just like, no, man, I'm just like, I'm going to do the same crap I did when I was 25 and I feel even better. Like, where are you at with all that stuff?
So it's a great question, and I know mind body is tricky, and bodies, you know, injuries are not fun for lots of people, including me. And so when Alcaraz, I don't know if you saw in the finals against Sinner, there was a volley. He had a backhand out of nowhere. He's a great rally. Comes in, hits his volley, and he's coming back, and the camera caught him going under his breath, saying, "Wow," to himself about his own shot. I would say that I have been like that a bit. That over the years that I've been able to play and move the way I have, winning the 40s at 52 or 53 being one of those moments, and I've been super grateful for that, and I think that there's a couple things that have helped me. Father Time is undefeated, so let's just be clear here, right? But being loose, having that looseness we discussed earlier, baking that into your game where you're not forcing as much, you're not um, tensing, and all of that can really create injury and nagging injuries and otherwise, and also the way you move to the ball. So someone just said to me recently, which I didn't know they watched me play, but they said you move so like gracefully to the ball. What's so remarkable is how you know where you are in space. I found that interesting, and I think he's right that I know where I am. So there's a presence that comes with when you're not caught up in so many things and you're focused on the ball and you're just present. You know, doing a quick jerk to get that ball for one. You're aware that where you are in time and space, and there's fewer times where I make jerky movements or explosively or with my arms. So I'm just more aware. I think awareness is a really big deal to reduce injury. And then if you reduce the tension, that if you're looser and more elastic, I think you're also reducing the probability of hurt over time, hurting your shoulder, etc. So because that elasticity you have. So I'd say those two things, awareness and loose elasticity, are pretty huge. And then I do yoga, I do stretching, I do get into the gym multiple days a week. Not a ton, but I'm consistent. Strength training, glutes are really important. If you work on your glutes, they're the biggest, strongest muscle in the body, and they really can help with all the hamstrings, everything else. So working on glutes and doing some stretching and hydrating, and just taking care of yourself a little bit. But and look, Pete, I play like 3 tournaments a year, dedicated tournaments. I'm not playing 6 and 8 and 10 that some people are. So give my body a chance to rest, and I'm not crazy about it. I play 3-4 days a week, maybe on average 3 now. And I just enjoy it. It's like, kind of like yoga or meditation, to just play and hit. And there's not all that forced energy that I bring. I don't know. And so I think that's helped me a lot over the years. And certainly didn't know that as a junior in college. I was feisty and fighting and muscling a lot and, fighting for my life. So hopefully that these tips or ideas will help help you guys, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Dave kind of almost asked the question you just kind of gave the answer to. I was wondering if you have anything else to put to it, but you kind of answered, I think. But maybe there's a couple more things that, now that you think about it, any off-court ways to build endurance and staying focused.
Yeah, I really like, you know, trying to silo time and like, you know, the Pomodoro has the 25-minute, you know, the app where you do 25 minutes, and but to take a piece of your, you know, your day and chunk them up, and you know, it could be 10 minutes, and really just try to bring all of your attention to that thing, and not let yourself get swayed, pulled into all the different options there, but to, yeah, to keep strengthening your focus, deepening your focus, being present, reminding yourself to come back. There's value in it, value in the depth of focus. We're fighting for our attention. You know, it's being sold to Silicon Valley, and the great experiment, and they're winning this one, unfortunately, and we need to fight back. We need to, and whether that's using the breathing, I breathe multiple times a day, just randomly, just in the car, all over the place. My son's like, "Oh my God," you know, when I do it, you know, but it's just, and you can do it where people aren't really noticing it so much, but you know, breathing, diaphragmatic breathing is really good. So you're not just doing it when you're under pressure. You're doing it through your day, kind of bringing that temperature down, you know, from 80 to 70, you know, you just keep bringing it down a little bit, and you train yourself in that way. And you know, and then, yeah, you just have to be conscious and aware and practice to bring your attention to that drill, that 3-minute cross court forehand drill. Just, and then your mind will wander after 30 seconds. Bring it back, come back, and that's the best we can do for now. And you know, we're working on more wearable stuff. It's, you know, but these are some natural ways to just, you know, awareness helps a whole lot.
Hmm. Yeah. So you mentioned something that I think is maybe a good way to end, is that, social media is fighting for the attention. It's winning, but to do good, healthy things, for our brain to not totally go mindless. So, again, I put Jeff's book in here. So, again, whether it's something you want to read for a family member and share that with them, or I'm sure this like tonight, I mean, this would help everybody. I'm sure everybody who is on tonight. God, I mean, I know I got more than one golden nugget tonight myself. That I was kind of, yeah, okay, that's a good way. That was good for me. That's good to say to my students. Like, I use this. That's why I love this right here, guys. Tennis Con. Tennis Con is not only for you guys, it's for me. I load up on inspiration, things worded a different way, a new drill. And, thank you for committing again to Tennis Con 9 this year. We're going to make it a challenge, but, buy Jeff's book. First of all, it's good to read. It's good to support anything tennis. Tennis, as far as like, we're always going to be grinding for attention and for our space in the world, right? It's always going to be like a world popular sport, but it's at that level to where we got to support each other. We got to grind it out, right? We got to support each other. So it's never easy. So if you can help us tonight and get Jeff's book, that would be awesome. It's going to help you. It's going to help the tennis world, and that's what we need to do is to support. All right, just bought on. All right, mate. Good tame devil. Just
Hmm.
bought on Kindle. That's what we need. We need to support
Thank
each other, because it doesn't come easy in the tennis world. We're always like there, right, Jeff? But it's never easy, is it? It's like we got to keep grinding and supporting each other.
Finding new ways to approach things, right, that help and work, right?
Yeah.
That's the fun of it, and you know, tennis is a microcosm, so many ways of life, right? So
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you, Jeff, for being on. Thank you guys for spending. I mean, talk about fighting for attention. We had most of you guys stayed on the entire time for over an hour, so like that was amazing. And as we know, you had lots of choices. You could have been scrolling on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. You could be watching football. You could be watching the world on fire. Like There's lots of things you can be doing right now, and you
Yeah.
stay with us, and we appreciate it. We really do. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Jeff, for joining us and everything that you do for the tennis world.
Thank you, Pete. It's always great to be with you. You're a learner, a lifelong learner. That's what we're doing. And so I always enjoy our conversations very much. Thanks everybody for joining. Really appreciate it and supporting the book and so forth.
Have a good night.
Bye bye.